The Toronto Blue Jays lose the series opener of a two-game set in Philadelphia, and the Phillies did all they could to gift that game to the Toronto Blue Jays, but they could just not take advantage. However, that was not the big story of tonight, so we'll break that down and much more on this episode of Jays Digest. What's up, Jays fans? I'm your host, Peter Vryonis, alongside host Nick Gosse. Now, an unfortunate start to a rough stretch of games to come up here for the Toronto Blue Jays. However, we are more worried about one individual in particular, and that is Alek Manoah. Now, I have not sounded the alarm as of yet, but I'm willing to do that in today's video, and today's start was not encouraging, Nick.
No, a very, very bad start. And we'll break down a few things, but before we do, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Your support has been unbelievable. We're less than 100, or around 100 away from 7,000, so if we can get there, it would mean a lot. And let's get into it. It's time to worry, I think, and this isn't just our opinion, but it's kind of trending around Twitter and Jay's universe throughout the game. Even Dan Shulman and people like that are zwelling. Everyone is just kind of talking about it right now, so we figured we'd address it as well because it's something that you guys have talked to us a lot about in the comments, but we didn't sound the alarm. But I think it is time to sound it, and we'll touch on it now. He went 4 2/3, giving up 4 hits, 3 earned runs, 4 walks, and a strikeout. Now, is that line good? No. If you were just looking at the line and you didn't watch the game and you're maybe watching this video, there's a few things that could cause us of concern for sure. But Peter, I'll just let you quickly, before we get into some of the analytics, touch on what you saw from Alek Manoah today, throughout the season, and why you think it's time to worry.
Yeah, obviously the big concern is his slider and how it's not moving. But in order to set that slider up, in the past, Alek Manoah has been able to locate his 3 pitches, his fastball, obviously his two-seam fastball, his slider, and his changeup. But right now, not only is he not locating his slider, he's not locating anything. And his fastball velocity is a tick down. He was around 92,
Yep.
93, 94 last year. So I'm not worried when I see 91 on the radar gun. What I am worried about is when 1 out of every 3 fastballs is leaking over the middle because he's pulling them off to the glove side, or he's missing arm side. The location is just not there, and he's not able to get himself into favorable counts. He's not able to get swings and misses just because of location. Now, his slider doesn't look like it's moving as much as it did in the past. It probably isn't. And if you take a deep dive into it, I think it's moving 1.5 inches less or 2 inches less, which is concerning. And that's a big difference at the major league level. So I don't know what it is. It could be fatigue. It could be the pitch clock. But something's got to change because this kind of regression this fast is not normal.
Yeah, the velocity's down, like you said. The slider certainly looks like it's not moving, and there's a couple of key indicators here. But before we do get into it, if you did watch the game, have a look and compare his slider to these sliders. Of course, this is from 2021, but the point is, I forget who made this video, but shout out to you. The sliders, even just visually, have so much more depth back when he was getting a lot of swings and misses, and it's something that's just has completely regressed back to something that we've never seen before. And you can look at some of the stats here. Yeah, exactly. You can see it here, and this is Josh Goldberg. He said Manoah has 3 whiffs on 34 swings through 4 innings, 0 with his slider. That is today, and that's followed up by Chris Black. Shout out to Chris Black. He's a wonderful analyst, or wherever he is, writer. Alek Manoah has thrown 63 sliders since he last got a swing and miss on one. 4th inning, April 28th, against Seattle. Now, that's really, I saw that and I was shocked, but it goes to show that we don't obviously know the advanced metrics about how much his slider is moving less. Someone can point that out, but at the very least, he is getting significantly less whiffs, which is something that he needs because he doesn't have overpowering velocity, especially when it's ticked down to 92. And you can see it here. It used to move tons more.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a real sharp slider. But this has been a trend for Alek Manoah, not only this season, but in the past couple of years. So when he first broke into the big leagues, he had about a 10K per 9 ratio. And now it's down. I don't even know what it's down to after this start, after punching out one batter in 4 2/3 of an inning. But last year he was less than a K per inning, and his strikeouts were down. He was more of a pitch to contact guy, but it didn't matter because he was able to locate and he was able to bust those hitters inside. And now he's just not able to do that for whatever reason, especially against lefties. He's struggling immensely because he can't locate that sinker
Yeah.
inside, and it's just been a rough go for Alek Manoah thus far. I don't know what it is. He's also never dealt with adversity in his career ever. The first time he's ever kind of been punched in the face, to put it into perspective, was in the wild card game against the Mariners, and that was the first time he's truly felt some adversity in his major league career. So maybe missing a start, maybe adding a starter to give him an extra day of rest through the next time of the rotation would give him some help, but he just doesn't look right now, and it doesn't make sense. It's puzzling. I don't know what to make of it, but maybe you got to try to change up the routine here.
Yeah, something absolutely needs to change. And Thomas Hall mentioned earlier as well, the command of Alcantara slider remains an issue, not ideal, and the Ep's still not great following the Nick Castellanos home run. But something I completely agree with you, and something definitely needs to change because it's not going very well for Alek Manoah at all. He's not doing anything really great right now, which is completely opposite of what we usually see out of Alek Manoah. And one thing I want to point out, which is kind of funny, it's kind of sad funny, is at the start of the season, if you looked at the FanGraph projections, they projected exactly what is happening right now. We all thought they were crazy, but obviously it's early in the season, but they projected a pretty high ERA and other things like that. Do I think it's correlated? No. But the point being, Alek Manoah is used to being a contact guy. So if his stuff starts to fall off at all, or other alternative, their hitters start to figure out the slider, then he was going to get hit hard, and that's exactly what's happening. Anything else you want to touch on quickly before we move on?
Yeah, I do think he'll get much better as the season progresses. He'll figure some things out, and he's always been a competitor. And today you heard on the broadcast Dan Shulman and Joe Siddall saying, even when he doesn't have his best stuff, he goes out there and he battles. And that used to be the case. That was the case last year. He only had one outing where he didn't pitch into the sixth inning. And that was a big calling card for Alek Manoah. Maybe he didn't have his best stuff. Maybe his fastball was 91, 92, but you knew you were getting 6 innings out of him, and you knew that he would keep you in the ball game. That's not happening now. I don't care if he's only given up 2 runs. He's going 4 2/3. That's taxing your bullpen. And after the off day from tomorrow's game, there's going to be 17 games in 17 days for this Blue Jays team coming up. So it's not an easy stretch, and they're going to need length out of their starters, not just Manoah, but out of each and every one of them.
Yeah, and we'll wrap that up for now, but let us know what your thoughts are on that and if you think it's time to worry, because I think at the very least it's time to start having some conversations about what's going on. But we'll quickly touch on the offense could not capitalize, and the Jays in general could not capitalize. That includes the relievers as well. Before we get into the relievers a little bit here, and John Schneider as well, I'll let you touch on. Quickly go through the hitters in case you missed the game. You can pause the video, have a look through there. Kevin Kiermaier continues to do great. Bo Bichette is probably the best hitter in baseball right now. Vladdy had a couple walks, and quick, I'll pop up a clip. Some positive for today. Bo Bichette has just been unbelievable as he crushes a curveball from Aaron Nola there into the bleachers. But Peter, Jays couldn't capitalize today. The Phillies were trying to gift us the game. Horrible errors, some bad pitches. Anything you want to touch on in John Schneider quickly?
Well, I want to give credit to Aaron Nola because he was absolutely on fire. He was dealing to everybody not named Bo Bichette today, and yeah, he had a great game. He's a true ace. His changeup was painting on those corners, and he looked very good. The offense, though, they could not capitalize, and they had numerous runners in scoring position, strikeouts and untimely at bats, ground outs when all you needed was a fly ball in the air to get a run home. So obviously, you got to pin a lot of the blame on the offense, but John Schneider, I've been a huge advocate of him, and I've been supporting him all season long. But I truly believe this was his worst game of the year, and I tend to not blame the managers in baseball because they can only do so much. Pitchers got to execute. So he sent out Trevor Richards for his third inning of work. He got one out in the sixth inning, I believe. Then
Yep.
he had a flawless seventh inning, struck out the side, and then you're sending him out there. So okay, if you want to send him out there for a third inning, fine. Give him one batter. But if he reaches, he's out of there. And now I know Trevor Richards has gotten them out of a lot of jams. He was only at 17 pitches at the time. But man, you gotta know when to call it quits. And John Schneider, he played a hunch and it just didn't work out. But I thought he was pretty poor today and set Trevor Richards up for failure.
Yeah, I messaged you about it. It seems Trevor Richards does really bad, especially his second inning into work for whatever reason. Could be wrong, but that's what it seems like in the eyesight. And you can obviously go through here. Tim Meza had a rough day. All the bullpen had a pretty rough day. Besides, I guess, Eric Swanson on paper, but he also got hit around fairly well. And they brought him
Yeah,
in
he got that
in a
big hit.
very tough spot. And I think, like you said, they brought him in too late. It's a one-run game. If you're gonna bring in Eric Swanson, he's available. Just bring him in at the very least to clean the inning up, or just to start the inning. Who knows? I'm gonna let it be. Anything else you want to touch on about that? I'm not gonna harp on John Schneider too much. I've
Yeah.
done my fair share of that. I think you haven't, so I'll let you quickly. Anything else you want to touch on before we wrap up?
Yeah, just you see it, and one batter. Give him one
I
batter
agree.
in his third inning of work. So if that guy reaches, and Trevor Richards was not even close on any of those pitches. To I can't remember who he was
I don't remember
facing.
either. I was
It
checking.
it was the guy that came in for Kyle Schwarber. Don't even know his name.
Whatever.
So
Shout
there
out
you
to him.
go.
Shout out to him.
He walked him, and then it all went downhill from there. But he waited too long to get Eric Swanson warmed up, and then I saw a lot of people harping on the George Springer thing as well, coming in for Varsho instead of Espinal. But I didn't have a problem with that. I thought that was the right move. Gregory Soto is not a good matchup for Dalton Varsho, but it's not the reason why the Jays lost. But it definitely didn't help.
Yeah, the Springer thing, you could argue either way, because to be honest, so far throughout the season, Springer's been really cold, but it is Gregory Soto, and I'm a huge Gregory Soto fan. At least I wanted him on the Blue Jays at some point. But yeah, I don't know. It was in a bit of a tough spot, and without George Springer in the lineup, it's not it's harder to work out a pinch hitting spot, especially at the top of the order like that, because there's tons of options. But
Mhm.
that'll wrap up the video. Quickly have a look ahead, and the schedule is crazy. After our off day Thursday, of course, we finish up this mini 2-game series. We have an off day Thursday. Then we play 17 straight games, and it's going to be tons of content, but it's also going to be tough for the Blue Jays. The schedule is absolutely brutal, so bear with us. Bear with the Blue Jays. There's going to be some losses. There's probably going to be a fair amount of losses, but at the end of the day, the schedule will even out. Anything you want to touch on before we wrap up here?
Yeah, well, just to put it into perspective, Nick and I thought the schedule would ease up, and we thought it would get easier after that really tough road
Got
trip to
harder.
start the season.
Got
It
harder.
does not. It does not because you got the Phillies tomorrow, and then you got the Braves this weekend. Then you got the Yankees, the Rays, the Orioles, then the Mets. It's rough. It's rough. But hang in there. If the Jays win over 500 or 50% of their games in this stretch, I'd be elated. I'd be very happy.
Yeah, that's the goal. It's going to be a fun but long stretch of baseball. So, hope you guys bear with us. Thank you for the support, and we'll see you tomorrow.